Hello and welcome to the AnIML General Update. My name is Burkhard Schaefer. I'm part of the board of directors at SiLA and looking after partnerships. And as part of that, I am also looking after our relationship with the AnIML group. So as a recap for those who are not familiar with AnIML yet, it's an XML-based data format for analytical and biological data. It's being developed by ASTM as an ASTM standard. And SiLA has been partnering with AnIML for several years to cover the data format aspect. As you know, SiLA is all about communication and integration, and SiLA does not provide a data standard, a data format as such. And there is good rationale behind that. We believe that SiLA does not need to reinvent the wheel. And so we've gone out and looked for partnering opportunities to work with a best-in-class partner, and that's where the partnership with AnIML was born. And so here is an update on what has been happening on the AnIML scene recently. AnIML has a couple of things that are worth noting that have been happening over, let's say, the past year. We are very pleased to see a growing adoption by vendors, both on the instrument side and the software side. With data formats, the pull usually comes from the software suppliers who are in the business of consuming data. So AnIML has had some really good traction in the LIMS market, in the ELN market, and with some really big players embracing it, including Labware, the world's largest. But we're also seeing now a push coming from the instrument supplier community, where we have great adoption stories that are really encouraging. AnIML is also very conscious of its role as a data format and is also looking for partnerships to reach additional stakeholders and to work on joint efforts. So the partnership with SiLA has been very useful, and there have been quite a few joint activities, both from a technical perspective, but also from a marketing and outreach perspective. So both communities have been benefiting quite substantially from this, and we intend to carry this forward. A new partnership is being established with SLAS, the Society for Lab Automation and Screening, to look at the topic of standardization in a broader perspective. SLAS is looking after the microplate standards, and there are conversations whether by working together with AnIML and SiLA and SLAS, we can take the microplate into the digital age. So this is being worked on, and we are hoping to have at least a three-party relationship here with SLAS, SiLA, and AnIML working together. And that would obviously also open additional opportunities and additional visibility. What's also happening is that the AnIML group has implemented a bit of a more strategic approach to its work streams. So a guiding strategy was established and implemented, and then different work streams have been formed to contribute to the execution of that strategy. And we'll be touching on that in some of the forthcoming slides. There's been quite a bit of effort on documentation, and I will also comment on that, and several initiatives around visibility have been implemented. AnIML is a fairly active community, and you can see that by looking at the meeting schedule here. So there is a weekly meeting called the AnIML Super Tuesday that takes place every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern. Today is an exception because we have the SiLA Conference. So it's not happening today because there shouldn't be competing activities scheduled at the same time. There is the AnIML Monthly Summit that is intended to provide an update to the wider community of stakeholders in the lab informatics field. The next one taking place on the 5th of November. And while the Super Tuesday is a bit more looking at the regular coordination of activities and work streams, the monthly summit is more intended to provide updates to casual observers who want to stay in the loop with what's happening with AnIML, but don't have the time to devote for more regular activities. So this is a good touch point if you'd like to stay informed as to what's going on in the AnIML world. There is also the AnIML State of the Kingdom, which is an annual face-to-face meeting in North America and an annual one in Europe. And due to COVID-19, we are not doing that this year. We'll see what happens next year. Besides those three core regular meetings, there are individual workstream meetings for the different activities that are happening. These meetings are open to everyone. So if you're interested, you can go to animal.org/meetings and register, and that ensures that you receive invitations to join them. So one thing that is important from an organizational perspective is a standardization effort is a volunteer effort. You have several organizations that are contributing, some people on an individual basis, others with a lot of backing from their respective organizations. So how do you coordinate the activities to meet the common goals of the community? First of all, you need to articulate what your goals are and what the journey is that you want to embrace. So in the beginning of the year, the AnIML working group established a strategy that would take it from the status quo through a couple of different stages in the life cycle of a standard to sort of becoming a standard, evolving it to a gold standard, evolving that to a global standard. And so in each of those phases, you could characterize the attributes. So in the beginning of the year, AnIML was a de facto standard with several implementations out there. There was some vendor support. Quite a few projects had been going on in production, but the community that was working on it was fairly small. And we really wanted to change that. And that has changed quite significantly. Now with the activities that you see going on and involvement from additional stakeholders. That you've seen on the previous slides. There was also fairly limited visibility and limited documentation and examples. So we wanted to work on that. And so there were a couple of target states that we wanted to reach. And so what we realized is as we progress through these states, there are certain work streams that can contribute to that. So the work streams that were identified are the following. There's a technical work stream that looks after the standardization documents and the collaboration spaces on GitHub and on Google Drive. There is a technique definition work stream that looks at which measurement techniques does AnIML work on, what's the roadmap here, and to review and prioritize the existing technique portfolio, look after governance, and rules and design guidelines for technique definitions to keep a good quality of the technique definitions and to have a well thought out and laid out roadmap. On the tooling side, there is the question, what does it take to make AnIML easy to implement? AnIML is based on XML, so there are a lot of tools out there, but the tooling work stream is tasked with looking at, are there specific tools that the community needs to make adoption even easier. Outreach is looking after marketing and partnering. So primarily, this is website, this is events, articles, and press-related activities, and so on. And there is one work stream that looks after vendor adoption to help vendors with business cases, think about onboarding strategies, how do you get something going quickly, and how do you organize interoperability testing so that a standard will actually work in the field. And so the evolution basically is quite easy to go through if you define the tasks of each work stream that helps us get from one stage to the next. And that's also the approach that we've been following. So based on the specific phase, the different work streams have certain activities that they work on. One thing that we've also noticed is that the more we go toward the right-hand side here, we also need additional organizational enablement because at some point there will be lots of meetings to coordinate. We may need some project management roles. We may need additional resources to help do that. And we're looking at those as well. And there, obviously, having ASTM cover our back is quite useful because they've been doing standards for over 100 years and they can provide that type of infrastructure. An update on documentation with the goal of making AnIML easy to understand and to adopt. The goal is to finalize a documentation package so people can easily implement AnIML and to gain an ASTM approval of that documentation. So what has been happening is the documentation that exists has been reviewed and additional sections have been created and updated by working group members. We've hosted 2 dedicated documentation hackathons in the past couple of weeks. And we think that the documentation project can be completed by the end of the year. And then we have a nice package that we'll submit for ASTM approval. And then this documentation package will also receive a standard designation, so it can be cited, it can be implemented, and so on. From a visibility perspective, it's very important that a standards community not only exists and does cool things, but that it's also perceived as being alive, being accessible. And so visibility is a key success factor. And so we're working on 2 initiatives here, one around the website and another one around events. There is a website update that's being pushed forward by the marketing workstream, and a new appearance of the AnIML.org website is currently being worked on. And here, the goal is to improve the visibility of AnIML to make sure that all the relevant content is available, documentation and examples. And the progress of the working group has been to do a persona segmented outline of content requirements. So to look at, okay, who are the types of people who are going to visit the website and what information do we need to offer them so that they find everything they need. We've also evaluated a number of content management systems. At the moment, AnIML is using the Joomla system, and we've looked at alternatives. And an external agency has been identified to help with the graphical appearance, and funding for this project has been secured. And so this is kicking off right now. Besides the website, another activity has been events. So we've been participating actively in a number of industry conferences, sometimes together with SiLA, sometimes AnIML individually. And we have hosted hackathons together with SiLA. And so AnIML is quite visible. And so that's a bit of an update on what's been going on in the AnIML community. Thanks so much.